Hi everyone, this is Miss Merritt, and this is Module 1, Lesson 2 video lecture. And we're going to look at population growth, carrying capacity, and limiting factors. So you will need to take Cornell notes, so set that paper up now. On the left-hand side, you're going to have key terms. On the right-hand side, the larger chunk will have the notes section, and then make sure you title it M1L2. And then I would put these key terms on there. So we're looking at population growth rate. Here are the two graphs that we will be looking at. And we're looking at what factors influence population growth rate. So just like the previous video, I highlighted your key term because it's the title. So put that on the left-hand side. And then everything below, including this diagram, if you draw that, that will be very helpful. Write these in the notes section. So the factors that influence population growth rate are death rate, birth rate, immigration, numbers going into the population, and then emigration, individuals leaving the population. Here is an example of a mathematical equation that we can use to show what needs to happen in order for the population to increase. So if the population is increasing, our births and our immigration, things going into the population, will need to be more than the things leaving the population, which are deaths and emigration. All right, here we have another highlighted title, so write that down under your key term. Here is the exponential growth curve, otherwise known as the J curve because it looks like the letter J, and sketch this in your notes. And then for exponential growth, this means that the population is growing faster and faster. And the reason for that is because there's few or no limiting factors. There's plenty of food, water, space to go around. So the population just keeps going up. This is like our human population. However, the human population, or any population that's exponentially growing, cannot continue to grow like that forever because resources are limited. We only have one Earth. There's only so many resources on it, such as food, water, and space. And so eventually competition will catch up with us, and some organisms will compete better while the others will die. And then death rate increases, and so the population will decrease. Okay, so now we're going to look at carrying capacity. So write this in your key terms, and then its definition. So this is a really great picture to show the concept of carrying capacity in illustration form. Carrying capacity is the maximum number of individuals an area can support. If we look at the graph here, and I want you to draw this, this is called an S-curve graph, or logistic growth, because it looks like the letter S. So here we have at the top where it levels off, that is where carrying capacity is. And once again, write this down, shows the S-curve. Population could overshoot, and then it will decrease. We'll see that in this next slide. Take a moment to look at this graph. Here we have the population going up beyond its carrying capacity, because at this point, it's easy to find a mate. Resources are very plentiful. There's plenty of food, water, and space to go around until it reaches up here, and then it's like, oh my gosh, there's so many people or organisms. Where's all the food? Oh no, we ate it all. And then people die, or individuals. And then when it goes low, now there's plenty of resources once again, and it goes up, and then it goes down. And so it fluctuates based on the availability of resources. So the growth slows or stops when the population uses up available resources. You need to know why it fluctuates, why it goes up and down. Growth will slow or decrease when the birth rate decreases or the death rate increases. Because remember, that's what causes the population to decrease. Up here in the red circle, and I suggest drawing this on your graph, That is called overshoot. That's due to the initial abundance of resources, but it doesn't last. All right, we have 2 more slides. So let's look at what limiting factors are. Limiting factors, write this in your key terms, are any biotic or abiotic factor that restrains the growth of a population. You don't need to write that down. We're going to go on to the next slide and you can write those examples down. And here we go. So you're going to write all of this. So these are the 2 different types of limiting factors. We have density independent. This will reduce the population reduce the size of the population no matter what the size. Yes, no matter what the size. So it doesn't matter how crowded or not crowded it is. The weather, the climate will affect whatever individuals are there, as well as a natural disaster. Things like earthquake, tsunami, flood, or drought. Whoever or whatever is there is going to be affected. If you look at density dependent, this is based on resources. So if a population is more densely populated, there's a lot of individuals in a little bitty space, then food will be more scarce because there's more mouths eating them or eating the food. Water will be more scarce and it will probably be more polluted as well because there's more feces that go along with the individuals if they're animals. Disease spreads very quickly. Predation, so if there's a lot more predators, that's going to affect the prey population a lot. And then also competition. Competition increases due to food and water being scarce. And competition, as we will see later, always decreases both populations because it makes it harder to survive. All right, so let's look at what we talked about. We looked at population growth. We have the J curve that goes, what way am I going? Straight up. So that's due to little or no limiting factors. There's plenty of everything so people can grow and continue reproducing. Then we have the S curve, like that. It levels off because of limited resources, and that's more realistic. And then we have limiting factors. We have density independent, things like flood, drought, hurricane. They'll affect anyone that's there, as opposed to density dependent limiting factors, things like disease, food and water availability, space. It depends on how densely populated the area is if those are going to make a difference. All right, that's it for Module 1, Lesson 2 video lecture notes.